And I love the story because it demonstrates her honesty, her willingness to look at her ego-based thoughts and not feel the need to hide them, because she's this great spiritual master, this teacher of spiritual principles, that she could still admit to having those kind of ego-based thoughts that many of us have, not have to cover them up, and even if she didn't like feeling them or recognizing them, that she could still be aware of them. And in being able to be so honest in her observation and to allow for this human experience, she was able to eventually move out of them. She wasn't as pulled by the ego-based thoughts. She noticed them, she didn't like noticing them, but just by noticing, she wasn't pulled in by them. She could detach and later tell the story to others and inspire those of us who hear the story. And I know for myself, I kind of went, well, if that could happen to Pema Chodrin, maybe some of the things I recognize in myself are more normal than I want to tell myself. I think it really speaks to the idea that we hear of being meek and humble. You know, this is something that was promoted in the teachings of Jesus, certainly, of, you know, we've all heard that the meek shall inherit the earth. Because the idea of being meek and humble is about being willing to grow, being willing to see where we have room to evolve. And if we are dealing with the infinite and we are finite expressions of it, there will always be room to grow. There will always be some greater dimension of love, dimension of creativity, dimension of adventure that we can move into beyond what we've experienced or expressed before. But if we get caught in that trap of, oh, no, you know, I know this, or I'm already here, we stifle that nature of spirit to expand through us. Pema allowed herself to recognize and not get hooked by the ego-based thoughts and not get caught into that idea of that she was more evolved or that she's supposed to be more evolved than others around her and get caught into the behaviors that would come out of that. And you know, as we dedicate ourselves to the spiritual path, to any spiritual path actually, we'll acknowledge areas where we expand in our lovingness, in our compassion, in our abundance. And as I was stating earlier, we can unintentionally fall into patterns of spiritual arrogance. You know, it's one thing to celebrate the growth. You know, it's one thing to celebrate how we've moved out of some pattern of fear and stepped into greater faith and expanded in our experience of joy and wholeness and love and health or whatever it is that we were feeling confined by. But that celebration is different from the kind of voice that we may have heard of someone who might say, oh, well, you know, my consciousness is such, I never get sick. You know, I just don't have that thought pattern. I don't know, I mean, you obviously do, but I don't. I'm always prosperous. I'm always taken care of financially because my consciousness is in that place, you know. Too bad you can't get there. And I'm sure we've all experienced some level of that. And that's quite different from simply being grateful, from stating, wow, am I grateful for the way the universe keeps providing for me. Boy, do I absolutely love that creative essence of God that lives in us and the way it shows up in my life. There's a difference in tone. You see that? And one is just being in joy and gratitude, and one is beginning to confine ourselves to this idea of somehow being more than, which can be a little bit of a trap. It can be a bit confining. You know, when we get caught up in the ego-based idea of having mastered something, we're really setting ourselves up for being knocked off our spiritual high horses.